Hi, I'm Emma Clark, and I grew up in the small town of Harrow. It's nothing glamorous, just a place where everyone knows each other and secrets have a way of coming to light. After graduating, I dove straight into the retail world, specifically lingerie. To me, it wasn't just a job, it was my passion. I poured my heart and soul into my work, and eventually, I became the proud owner of a chain of lingerie stores ranging from quaint boutiques to upscale outlets. I was dedicated to my business and exceptionally good at it. But as I clocked in the hours, days, and months, I started to feel like something was missing. That's when Michael entered my life. It all began with a simple ping on my phone. A friend request from a sharply dressed guy with piercing eyes. I didn't recognize him, but his profile hinted at a man who had his life together. A lawyer, hence the tailored suit. Curiosity got the best of me and I hit accept. It wasn't long before his first message appeared one evening while I was crunching numbers. Hey Emma, thanks for accepting my request. I noticed we have some friends in common. How's it going? Simple enough, right? But it was his follow-up messages that truly drew me in. He was witty and had a knack for making me laugh even after the longest days. I remember one night we were joking about the worst pickup lines we'd ever heard, and his humor just clicked with me. Michael, have you ever heard this one? Are you a magician? Because whenever I look at you, everyone else disappears. I bet you've heard that one in your line of work, Emma. Oh, for sure, top of the cringe chart. But here's mine. Are you a photographer? Because I really want to leave this shoot. He tacked out a laugh. At least I hoped it was genuine. After a few weeks of messaging, he suggested meeting for coffee to put a real face to the texts. The first time we met was at this little dive I loved, known for its strong brews. He was already there when I walked in, absorbed in a newspaper. When he looked up, the polished image from his profile didn't do him justice. He was even better in person. Emma, wow, you actually look like your pictures. That's a rarity in this city, he said, and I couldn't help but smile. Thanks. I think you look pretty great yourself. Despite his lawyer vibe, he laughed, and the ice melted away instantly. We talked for hours. There was substance to our conversation. Michael asked about my business and my dreams, genuinely listening to my every word. When we had been seeing each other for a year, he decided it was time to take our relationship to the next level. I was closing up shop one chilly evening when he arrived unexpectedly, his breath visible in the cold air as he presented me with a small velvet box. Emma, I've been thinking, he started, looking uncharacteristically nervous. We've been doing so well, you and I think it's time we considered making this permanent. I froze, the keys to my store still in my hand. Michael, are you saying what I think you're saying? His charming, lopsided grin appeared. Yes, I am. Marry me, Emma. Let's not play games anymore. I want you as my partner for life. My heart raced, and a whirlwind of thoughts flooded my mind. Was I ready for marriage? But looking into his eyes and seeing the sincerity there made me feel like it was right. Yes, I breathed. I'll marry you. Then, his expression shifted to something more serious. But there's something else we need to discuss. Some legal matters. The word legal hit me like a splash of ice water. Legal? Really, Michael? Is that necessary? He rushed to explain, taking my trembling hands in his. It's not that I don't trust you, Emma. It's just practical. As a lawyer, I've seen too many messy splits not to be cautious. Plus, it'll protect us both. What kind of protection are we talking about? I asked, a mix of curiosity and concern coloring my voice. He pulled out some documents from his briefcase. It's straightforward. If either of us cheats, the cheater loses their assets to the other. It's simple and fair. You know I would never cheat on you, Emma. This is just a safety net. I took a deep breath, trying to wrap my head around it all. The romantic proposal suddenly tangled with talk of cheating and assets wasn't what I had envisioned for my engagement. But maybe life with Michael wouldn't be ordinary, and perhaps this was just part of that. I glanced at the papers and then back at him, sensing his earnestness. All right, I'll think about it, but let me be clear, Michael. I have no intention of giving you a reason to use this against me. His relief was palpable. We celebrated that night, and despite the strange mix of emotions, the evening was perfect. The restaurant was cozy, the food delicious, and Michael was attentive, making me laugh and helping me forget about the legalities for a few hours. As we strolled back to the car beneath the stars, he stopped and pulled me close. You know I love you, right? No piece of paper is going to change that. I nodded, resting my head against his chest. I know, Michael. I love you too, I replied softly, but let's make sure this prenuptial agreement doesn't come between us, okay? He pressed a gentle kiss to the top of my head. It won't, I promise. A few days later, I signed the prenuptial agreement after reviewing it with my own lawyer, just to be sure. It felt strange to sign a document discussing the potential end of a marriage when ours hadn't even begun, but life is a gamble, and I was all in. I just hoped my bet on Michael would pay off. We were the couple everyone envied, always laughing and whispering to each other at parties. But after a few months, I sensed something shifting. At first, it was subtle, just a chill that settled over us, but soon enough, real trouble emerged. One afternoon, while shopping for new scents at a perfume store, I struck up a casual conversation with a sales associate about fragrances. When we left the store, Michael was fuming. "Who was that?" he barked as soon as we were clear of the crowded mall. I was taken aback. "The sales guy. I was just asking about the perfumes." "Why did it seem like you were really into him?" Michael shot back, his eyes narrowing. I stared at him in disbelief. "Michael, I was talking about perfumes. What's gotten into you?" He scoffed, shaking his head and turning to walk away. "Nothing. Forget it. Let's just go home." But it didn't end there. It only escalated. From that moment on, whenever I spoke to another man, Michael would sulk or make snide remarks. He became distant, retreating behind his laptop or phone and leaving me to eat dinner alone most nights. One evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I found him in his study, staring blankly at a spreadsheet. "Michael, we need to talk," I said, standing in the doorway. He didn't look up. "It's about us, about how you've been acting lately." I walked over to shut his laptop. "You've been distant, and every time I interact with another guy, you act like I've committed some crime." He rubbed his temples and sighed heavily. "Emma, you don't understand the pressure I'm under at work. When I see you laughing and chatting with other men, it just gets to me. Sometimes it feels like you don't respect our relationship enough to keep your distance." We stared at each other, the air thick with unspoken words and the remnants of our raised voices. Then the rumors started creeping in. Friends began whispering that Michael had been telling people I was a flirt, chatting up other men whenever he turned his back. I couldn't believe it. "You've been talking about me behind my back?" I demanded. "Telling people I flirt with other guys?" "Look, Emma, it's not like that. I might have said a few things, but it's only because I see how they look at you," he replied, defensive. I cut him off, my anger boiling over. "I don't believe this. You have no right to spread lies about me. You're supposed to be my partner, not my biggest critic." After that blow-up, things between us cooled down. One morning, I found a note from Michael on the kitchen counter. His handwriting, usually neat and precise, looked rushed this time. I picked up the note, my heart racing a bit faster than usual. "Emma, let's try to start over. Meet me at the Grand View Hotel, room 204, at 8:00 p.m. tonight. Let's put the past behind us and move forward." I stared at the note for a full minute, taken aback. This was unexpected. Maybe it was his way of reaching out, trying to mend what had been broken. Hope fluttered in my chest like a fragile bird, and I decided to go. The day dragged on, and work felt like a blur. I couldn't focus on customer orders or inventory. My mind kept drifting back to the note and what the evening might hold. Could we really start fresh? By the time I closed up the shop and headed to the hotel, I was a bundle of nerves. Arriving at the Grand View, my palms were sweaty. I checked my reflection in the car mirror, fixing my hair and dabbing on a bit of lipstick. Not too much. I didn't want to seem like I was trying too hard. Room 204 was on the second floor. The hallway was quiet, just the soft hum of the air conditioning. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, then hesitantly turned the doorknob. It was unlocked. The room was dimly lit by a bedside lamp, casting long shadows across the bed. An open bottle of wine sat on the table, 2 glasses beside it, and a small plate of sliced fruit. But there was no sign of Michael. "Michael," I called out as I stepped inside, letting the door click shut behind me. Silence enveloped me, broken only by the soft whir of the air conditioner. I considered leaving, but something made me stay. I poured myself a glass of wine, the deep red liquid swirling in the glass. "Just one glass," I muttered to myself, hoping to calm my nerves. I took a sip. The wine was rich and slightly too sweet. I sat down on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. The wine began to make my head feel a little fuzzy, or was that just my nerves? I lay back to rest my eyes for a moment, the room spinning gently before everything faded to black. When I finally woke up, it was dark outside. I tried to sit up, but a pounding headache made it difficult, and my thoughts were foggy. My phone lay on the nightstand, and I grabbed it. The light from the screen was blinding in the dim room. I checked the time. It was past midnight. Panic clawed at my chest as I struggled to remember what had happened and how I ended up lying there. But it felt like grasping at smoke. I jolted awake, suddenly aware that I was lying there without any clothes. Panic surged through me as I fumbled to dial Michael's number, my fingers trembling. When he picked up, his voice was cold and distant. "Emma, what's up?" "Michael, where are you? Why didn't you come to the hotel?" My voice shook with a mix of anxiety and frustration. "Hotel? What are you talking about? Emma, are you drunk? Have you lost your mind? I'm at the Grand View, like you told me. Why did you ask me to come here if you weren't going to show up?" My anger flared, drowning out my confusion. "Emma, I don't know what sick game you're playing, but I didn't write any note. I've been home all night. You're out of control, running around with your lovers." As I drove home from that disastrous night, Michael's cold, dismissive voice replayed in my head, leaving me in a state of turmoil. It felt like I was trapped in a nightmare from which I couldn't wake. Pulling into the driveway, the familiar sights of our home offered no comfort. Instead, they twisted into a knot of dread in my stomach. I stepped inside, and the tension hit me like a wave. Michael was pacing the living room, his face twisted in anger. As soon as he saw me, he exploded. "There you are, the wandering wife returns," he yelled, his voice dripping with scorn. "Michael, please, we need to talk. Something very wrong happened tonight," I pleaded, my voice shaky yet desperate to make him understand. But he wouldn't listen. Instead, he slammed a stack of photos on the table. "Explain these," he shouted. I picked up the photos, my hands trembling. They showed me in a hotel room, in bed with a man I'd never seen before. My heart sank. "Michael, I don't know who this is. I swear I've never seen him before. Something happened to me tonight, something I can't explain." He laughed, a harsh, mocking sound that sent shivers down my spine. "A monstrous mistake or just your monstrous behavior? Marrying you was the real mistake." Tears stung my eyes, but I fought them back, desperate to stay strong and clear-headed. "I didn't do this, Michael. You have to believe me." "Believe you? Why should I? You're a liar and a cheat, and I'll make sure you don't get a cent from me. I'm going to court, and I will take everything from you, just like we agreed." He spat out the words before grabbing his suitcase, already packed, and heading for the door. With a final glare, he slammed the door behind him, leaving me alone in the echoing silence of the house. I collapsed onto the couch, my body shaking. The pain in my head throbbed relentlessly, an intensity that made it hard to think. But it was more than just a headache. It felt as if my brain were shrouded in fog, my memories of the night blurred and inconsistent. That's when it hit me, the wine. I had only had one glass, but the dizziness and blackout didn't add up. It was too extreme, too sudden. I grabbed my phone and dialed my friend Lisa, a nurse, hoping she could help explain my symptoms. "Lisa, something's not right. I had a glass of wine, and then everything went black. I woke up hours later, and now Michael has these photos. It doesn't add up." My words tumbled out in a rush. There was a pause on the other end as Lisa processed what I said. "Emma, it sounds like you might have been drugged. You need to get to a hospital or a lab and get tested right now. Tell them what happened, especially about the wine and your symptoms." The drive to the lab felt like a blur as my thoughts raced, desperately trying to piece everything together. Once there, I explained the situation to the technician, who nodded solemnly and took several vials of blood. A couple of days later, I heard a heavy thud at my doorstep. It was a letter from Michael. My hands shook as I tore it open, confirming my worst fears in the cold, formal language of the legal notice. Michael was suing me for infidelity, aiming to strip me of everything I owned based on our prenuptial agreement. The trial was set for a month from now. I called my lawyer, Paul, immediately. His voice offered a small comfort amid the chaos. "Emma, come to my office. We need to strategize." As I drove to his office, my mind raced through every possible scenario, except the one where I emerged unscathed. Upon arriving, I noticed a familiar figure, Michael, walking alongside a young man, the same one from the photos. Without thinking, I grabbed my phone and started recording. I caught them exchanging an envelope, which the young man quickly tucked into his jacket. My heart raced as I realized the significance of what I might have just captured. At Paul's office, I showed him the video. His eyebrows shot up as he watched the exchange. "This is good, Emma. It looks very suspicious. I think it's time we brought in a private investigator." Paul's friend, Jack, a seasoned private investigator, took the case. He moved quickly, tailing the young actor and digging into his background. A few days later, Jack called us into his office with news. "I spoke to the kid," he began, his expression serious. "He's a bit of an actor, down on his luck. Your husband hired him to play a part, the part of your lover. He also confessed that your husband planned everything, even the drugged wine." As we were talking, my phone pinged with an email. My blood test results had arrived. I opened the attachment, my breath catching as I read the findings. Positive for a potent sedative. Just as Jack had said. I passed my phone to Paul, who read the results and looked up, his eyes hardening with resolve. "This is it, Emma. This is what we need. With this evidence, we can not only defend you but also turn the tables on Michael." Paul advised me to keep everything under wraps until the court date. "Let's not tip him off. We'll hit him with this in court and give him the surprise of his life." A week had passed since the hotel debacle, and I was back in the familiar confines of my lingerie store, trying to distract myself from the looming court date. It was an ordinary afternoon until Michael walked in, a woman on his arm. "Emma, meet Leela, my bride-to-be," he announced, pride in his voice that didn't quite reach his eyes. Leela looked young, too young perhaps to grasp the type of man she was dealing with. She glanced at me with a mix of curiosity and judgment. Michael wasted no time stirring up trouble. "Take a good look around, Emma. Soon enough, all this will be mine." His arm swept dramatically across the expanse of my store, a smirk playing on his lips. Leela's eyes followed his gesture, her expression hardening with newfound conviction. I wanted to reach out and warn her, but I recalled Paul's strict instructions to remain silent until the hearing. All I could manage was a thin smile, responding with as much dignity as I could muster. "We'll see what the judge has to say about that, Michael." The day of the court session arrived all too quickly. The courtroom felt austere, the air thick with tension. Michael, ever the lawyer, had chosen to represent himself. He stood before us, adjusting his tie, a clear display of self-assurance, as he prepared to deliver his opening statement. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady and clear, "today you will see the true colors of a woman who not only broke the vows of marriage but sought to destroy the sanctity of our home with her deceit." He gestured dramatically to the evidence displayed on the screen behind him. My wife, Emma, was not the faithful partner she promised to be. Photos from the hotel room flashed on the screen, eliciting murmurs from the courtroom. For months, I lived in torment, suspecting her infidelities, and finally, as these pictures show, my worst fears were confirmed. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle as he walked closer to where I sat, his eyes locking onto mine. "Emma here would have you believe she's a victim, innocent and caught in circumstances beyond her control." His tone was scathing, his words rehearsed yet effective. "But I tell you, she is not a victim. She is a perpetrator, a destroyer of our union." As he spoke, I noted the calculated pauses and measured glances at the judge, the way he constructed each sentence with the precision of a seasoned attorney. "The evidence is clear, undeniable. Emma's actions have caused irreparable damage, not just to her marriage but to the very fabric of trust that binds any relationship." His speech crescendoed in a dramatic plea for justice. Paul, my lawyer, rose to address the court with calm authority, his briefcase filled with the evidence that would clear my name. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady and commanding, "today we not only defend Emma Clark's honor but also reveal a pattern of deceit orchestrated by her husband, Michael Clark." He gestured to the back of the courtroom, and the actor Michael had hired entered, causing a stir among the spectators. Paul asked him to share his involvement, and the young man looked nervously around before speaking. "I was hired to act a part. I thought it was just a prank," he admitted, his voice shaky. "I didn't realize the seriousness of what was being orchestrated." Paul nodded gravely, then presented the blood test results to the court. These results show that Emma was incapacitated against her will, drugged by substances she had no knowledge of consuming. The courtroom murmured as the implications sank in. Furthermore, Paul continued, his tone hardening, "this is not the first time Mr. Clark has employed such tactics." He laid out evidence of Michael's previous marriages, detailing how similar patterns had led to his unjust enrichment at the expense of his former wives. As Paul concluded his arguments, the weight of the evidence was palpable. We ask not only for the dismissal of the fraudulent claims made against Emma, but also for just compensation for the ordeal she has endured. The judge nodded, absorbing everything before delivering her verdict. After careful consideration of the evidence presented, I find in favor of Emma Clark. The prenuptial agreement is hereby annulled. Relief washed over me, and tears pricked my eyes, not just from the victory, but from the vindication. Furthermore, the judge added, the court awards Mrs. Clark damages in the amount of $400,000. Michael's face turned ashen, his future crumbling before him. His fiancée, present in the courtroom, hurried out, only to return briefly to whisper a thank you to me for exposing the truth before leaving him for good. News of the trial spread like wildfire, the sensational details making headlines. Michael's professional reputation was irrevocably damaged. He was stripped of his license to practice law. The revelation prompted his ex-wives to file lawsuits against him, uncovering a trail of deceit that left him financially and socially bankrupt. As I closed up shop one evening, the glow of the sunset casting long shadows on the floor, I reflected on the journey. The battle had been hard-fought, marked by moments of despair and indignity, but ultimately it stood as a testament to resilience and justice.